Good morning. I'm just going to be talking about parenting. Are both female and male important in to raise kids? In the present society, they would say no. It can be whatever gender to whatever gender or the same genders or whatever. Anyway, that's a breakdown of society. It's a breakdown. Once that happens, you know society's going downhill. You know that kids are going to be growing up that are totally wrecked, total psychological disasters, and you have no idea what's going to turn out with the generation that's going to be raised in that kind of garbage. So yesterday I came home after 5 days of being on the road, working long hours. So after work I would be just going to the motel and showering and brushing teeth and going to bed pretty much. So had not much time calling or talking to the kids, and because we had to finish training and I wanted to finish a job, we didn't quite finish it. We're going back on Monday for a day and finish it. But yeah, I came home and my 7, 8 month-year-old, he wouldn't look at me. He wouldn't look at me, and I would say I love you, and he's like, I'm trying to tell him how much I love him, and he's like, He didn't believe it because daddy's gone. Daddy leaves only if he doesn't love him. That's how they think, eh? And it's very interesting because my firstborn, he's 7 years old now, and I used to go trucking to Toronto and back from Winnipeg, and that would take 4 or 5 days. And I would come back for the weekend, and he wouldn't have anything to do with me for the first day, and but this kept going for a few months. And just before I left, he would warm up, and then I would leave, and that would throw him back again. And I come back, and he's just yelling at me, crying at me, and he was he was about 8, 9 months then, 10 months old or a year, and this kept going until Christmas. I was home for 2 weeks, and Faith would take pictures with him on my lap, and then pictures of just before I left. The pictures of him on my lap just when I got home and I'm holding him, and the next day, and she looked at the pictures, and those pictures that his eyes looked dead. His eyes looked dead. And then the pictures of when I was home for 2 weeks because of Christmas break, uh, they were alive again. He looked alive. He had life in him. And when I saw that just before I left, she said, "Look at the picture of when you came home." And I looked at it, and his eyes were dark, just like nobody there. There seemed to be nobody there, nobody home. And then when I was just before I left to go on the road again, he was alive and happy, and you can just see it. So it's just a disaster for both parents to not be involved in raising the children. That's why this divorce society, the society of I just want to please myself and not work on a relationship with mommy or daddy and to make it work. It's just a disaster. And the thing is, this is how I grew up also, is with my father not at home. And then when he was at home, he didn't really know how to interact with us. He didn't know how to communicate with us. And then he did go into lots of drinking, and I think everything compiled and just made him even more worse. So he would drink even more because he knew he was not doing what he was supposed to do. I mean, he tried the best he could, but you kind of gotta go with what you know, and that's what he did. So I'm just walking on our property. This is actually the road into our property. It's a dead-end road. We really love it. Just about no traffic except for a farmer that lives 2 miles over. But anyways, so I grew up thinking that the father was not important in the family structure. That's what I grew up thinking. My mother, I was kind of close to my mother. She was kind of our security, our security blanket, I guess. And she would tell me that I would be playing all by myself, and then when kids would come and play in the area, I would just take my toys and go sit near her, where if she was around. But that's kind of how I grew up. So anyways, fast forward a few years to when I left home and I was working in the oil rigs in Alberta, Medicine Hat, Alberta. I was on the weeks off, I would go to church there, and then this one family invited me home, and they had 3 kids, and they were, I don't know, I'm bad at judging ages. I don't know, from 8 to 13 years old or something. And I was after church, they would invite me over for lunch, and I would and we'd have lunch, and then after lunch, that's our cows there. After lunch, the kids would sit on the father's lap and interact. He would interact with them, and I'm like, these guys are weird. Like, whoa, these guys are totally weird. What's going on here? This is totally out of this world. The father interacting with the kids like that. And anyways, they invited me over just about every time I went to church there, which wasn't very much because I was mostly working. And then I wouldn't come home to Manitoba, is where I lived then. But I would just stay out there on my weeks off because I didn't think it was important going to see family, brothers and sisters, mom and dad. Yeah, I was crazy. I was so bad that one driller, when he found out I hadn't talked to my mother for 2 months, he just stripped me up and down, and swearing and cursing me. And he said, she brought you into this world, and you don't even have the decency to call her up and say hi and how's this going. He said, you better call her tonight when we get off you. I said, oh, okay, I'll call her in a month, next month. No, you blankety blank. You, okay, I'll call her next week, man. Stop pushing me. That's the kind of, I didn't think family was important because our family was a bit messed up. And it was mostly because of the religious leaders that my father wasn't around. So anyways, when I kind of slowed down and started my own company, moved back to Winnipeg, started my own construction company, I started going to a church, and there another family invited me home. And he had 2 kids. I don't forget what ages they were. They're all grown up now. But yeah, so and the same thing. The father would sit on the kids would sit on the laps of the father and interact and goof around, and I'm like, these guys are weird also. Like, who does this? So anyways, and then I was starting to think maybe the way I was raised was screwed up. So yeah, are both male and female important? Well, just let's say on this last trip, just before I left, my 2-year-old, a boy, when I left, Faith, my wife, just told me last night. She said he just stood there in one spot. In one spot, he stood there, looking out to where I had left, and he said, "Woof, Daddy, woof, Daddy." He's saying, "I love Daddy. Why is he leaving?" That's what he was saying. He's like, "Woof, Daddy." Just for a whole hour, he stood there looking out at the road. Are both male and female important in raising kids? I think so. And I think the Bible thinks so, because originally God made it so that there was male and female. And this liberal, messed up, death society and culture that we're living in North America is going to screw that right up. And we had better be careful. We need to stop this stupidity of tearing families apart. Children have no idea what's going on. When you get divorces, the children think that it's there. She looks pregnant. Whoa. You see how on one side she's got a major bump? And that's an indication that she's pregnant. We don't think, oh man, yeah. On the one side, it's kind of a lower bump. So yeah, I think she's pregnant. So this society is a messed up society that we have. And man alive, it's such a destruction to the children. I just want to encourage people, if you do not have the decency to work on a relationship when you get into marriage, and if you don't have the commitment to stick it out through thick or thin. I mean, we argue, we get into fights. There's times when I'm like, man, sometimes I think I wish I wouldn't have gotten married. It's just too hard. But hey, things in life are hard. And if you don't fight for anything, it's not worth living for. So we need to wake up. I just want to encourage people that whoever would listen to this, that it is important to have male and female, not female and female, male and male, or whatever genders there are. That is death to culture. It is a death to culture. We need to get back to how God made it and stay that way. So it's like, man alive, it's such a destruction that we have in this North American society, and it's gonna bring our whole society, our whole culture, everything that we pretty much live for, and freedom. It's gonna bring it all to nothing if we don't build on the family unit with a male and with a female to raise kids, to have character, to have to have creativity, to build on what is already there instead of tearing down. Because all it is if people get married and then, oh, there's a bit of a problem, we just abort mission. What does that teach the kids? Oh, nothing's worth fighting for. Nothing's worth building up. Nothing's worth for this one instant when I was in Winnipeg fixing up the house in Winnipeg. I had a guy. He was kind of a young Christian. He would help me. I would give him $100 or so a day. Couldn't afford much because I was fixing the house up and working and part-time fixing, and yeah. So anyways, there's one day it rained 2 times, and then he took it as a sign from God that, okay, God is against me, so he's not going to have anything to do with fixing the house because God is against me. It had rained 2 times, short bursts of rain, and then so I'm like, okay, whatever. I took him home and I continued working. Are we going to have that mentality as soon as things get hard, as soon as things get difficult, you just abort? That's stupid. And that's the same thing as the family unit. You just keep going. Of course it's going to be hard. I mean, just the job I just had now, man alive, the manufacturer had things messed up, and that took a few hours longer. We should have finished on Friday. But the manufacturer had things messed up, which held us back probably a full day. And then the crane operator, he was so tentative. I don't know why he's even on a crane, because he's afraid of everything. And because of him, it took half a day longer for craning, if not a day. Well, not a day, not quite a day, because we finished in 2 days. It was supposed to take a day and a few hours. But yeah. Are we going to have that mentality as soon as things get a bit hard, we just shut her down? I mean, we had the spout, a 75-foot, 14-inch spout in the air ready to install, and he takes it down because he thinks it's going to slip. And I had to come down from the leg and say, I've never ever seen anything slip with a rubber on there. I have a rubber that bites into the steel, and then a steel cable that bites into the rubber and pushes the rubber tight against the spout, and then there's no way it'll slip. And I had to go down, and I'm telling you, I wasn't. I said, we need to get this up. It was starting to get dark and everything, and he's just standing there, like, oh, it's a bit uncomfortable, so I'm just gonna stand here and do nothing. Is this how we're gonna live? Like, this is stupid. This society, I hate it. And the way the society is going, this woke culture, this this stupidity, liberal stuff that we're getting into, where the government thinks they can control everything, and it's just gonna go to death, anti-freedom and all that. We need to fight, and that's another thing we need to fight for, is our freedom. Like these mass protests in Canada because of vaccine passport, which is another thing that will take away our freedom. And don't think it's going to be just temporary. You're not going to spend billions of dollars just for a temporary passport. No. People have to wake up and fight for what is worth it: freedom, family, and God. That's the things that are worth, and it's not exactly in that order. I would put God, family, and then freedom. That's what we're supposed to fight for. And with this corona stuff, the churches have totally failed in fighting for God and freedom. The churches have failed. The churches are a failure. These big denominations, which brings me back to the book that I just released a few weeks ago, Blighted Denominationalism. We were in it, and we got out of it. And the push in the book is to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, not with a man or a man-made organization. So yeah, the family unit is what is important. And it's important to fight for it. It's important to raise children that have character, that have creativity, that is going to add something to society. It's going to add something to the country, and it's going to help build up. And we're not going to do it by tearing down the family unit. As soon as things get tough, you get a divorce, or you'll find someone else that's more attractive than your wife, and she's put up with you for how long? I mean, look at you, look in the mirror, or vice versa. A man goes away from a woman, or a woman goes away from a man. I mean, just work on it. Have some decency, have some character.